hadith begins, عن زيد بن ثابت رضي الله عنه قال تسحرنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قمنا إلى الصلاة قيل كم كان بينهما قال قدر 50 آية متفق عليه. Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu narrates that we took the suhoor meal, we ate the pre-dawn meal with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we stood up to for prayer, and over here referring to the Fajr prayer. So it was asked, how much time was between the two? He replied, the amount of time that it would take to recite 50 verses. Narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So here there's a few things we get out of it. One, them eating the suhoor meal, and it just shows how they put it towards the end, as the Prophet ﷺ says, we delay the suhoor meal as much as possible, and as long as you don't enter into the Fajr time, you try to delay it as much as possible. And over here, the amount of time that was told is 50 verses. Now, subhanAllah, is one of the things that we need to start utilizing these terminologies with ourselves, with our kids, and maybe not in this sense, because now we have the concept of minutes and hours, where there's, even if there's no sun or anything like that, we have the clock, we have we have watches that tell us exactly how much time or when we're gonna meet up or things like that. But it doesn't mean that we should avoid our kids from hearing certain words on a consistent basis. Things like prayer, like, hey, let's meet after Dhuhr, or hey, what about Maghrib Salat? After Maghrib Salat, we can do this after Asr, and just revolving our day around Islamic terminologies that our kids can constantly hear and make it a part of their life. And then they just understand that, oh, Fajr, Maghrib, these are certain times of the day that it will not leave their minds. A lot of times, some kids, they'll just be outside playing, the sun will set, you can tell it's Maghrib, they want to pray, but they're just like, oh, I didn't realize it was Maghrib time. Even though the night is getting dark, the sky is getting darker. Why? It's just the words and the terminologies and the actions may not be in their conscious state of mind. It's in the back, and if they really think about it, it would be. But it's just not there because it's not constantly used. So over here, they're using, what are they using as their mode of way to tell time? 50 verses. Now 50 verses could be 2 pages. Like if you look at Surah Al-Rahman, it'll be about 2 pages. If you look at Surah Al-Baqarah, it'll be about 6 pages. And how long it would take to recite that many verses. But if somebody reads the Quran with fluency and tajweed and good recitation, it could take anywhere 30 to 40 minutes to recite 20 pages. So this being at most a fraction of that, maybe a fourth of it, where it's like 10 minutes or something like that. That's how much time they would put between the two. So anyway, that's separate because that just shows how much they delayed it and how early they prayed the Fajr Salat. As the Prophet ﷺ, many times he gives this the virtue of praying the Salah, the prayers, in its first time, when it first comes in. And you don't prolong it for no other reason. If there's a reason, there's no problem. I mean, if you have a reason, you have that period. But if you have no reason and there's nothing stopping you, just sitting down waiting, then you pray it right when it comes in, and that just put in your heart, it's this value for it. Now, if you have work to do, you're in a meeting at work, or you have class, then that's what the window for the salat, the period is for the salat. For Fajr, it's from when it comes in until sunrise. For Dhuhr, it's from when after the Zawal, after the sun passes its zenith, until Asr, when it comes to either the shadow of an object becomes its length or twice its length. And then Maghrib goes until sunset. So those window periods are there as a way for you to make sure you catch your prayer and to schedule your day so that within that window you pray that salah. So there is no excuse for not praying it within that window. I mean, there's sometimes an excuse. People are sick. People, for whatever reason, they have an Islamic excuse. That's a different story. But even if somebody, like, for example, is paralyzed, even if somebody is in a certain state, they can always pray in different ways. And that's another topic in its own. So, and over here, they're using this, the recitation of the Quran, as a mode of telling time. that it'll take 50 verses. So aside from that, I want to just quickly touch on this topic because I've heard many different things, and I want to just clear it up. So when Fajr comes in, now there's a variety of opinions of how to calculate the start of Fajr. And if you look at any Salat app that you have, there's al Qura, there's Ikna, there's the group in Misr in Egypt, a group in that calculates the Salat in Pakistan, and they have different calculations and they'll vary. And sometimes if you look at from like the earliest one to the latest one, it can be anywhere to 15-20 minute difference. So whichever one you decide to follow, and if you don't know which one to follow, you can go to your local masjid and see which one your local masjid follows, and just follow that, just because you have suhoor at times with the masjid and you have iftar at the masjid, so you want to follow something that you can be there in a part of the community, not go into that community and be like, you guys, it's Fajr is already in, because you're following a different opinion and the whole community is following a different one. So you don't want to be that person. If you are, then you want to avoid creating that kind of problem, making everybody else think that their siyam is not accepted. So whichever one you follow, then you look at that time. Now what I've heard is, for example, when you hear the adhan for the Fajr prayer, you can keep eating until the adhan is finished. I've heard that when the adhan starts, when you hear the adhan, you can keep eating the food until your morsel is finished. And there's different things like that we can all say. The easiest way to understand and just make sure that there's no complication is look at your Salat app, and when Fajr comes in, once it's corrected according to your city, when it comes in, no food can go down your throat after that time. As soon as it hits that minute 00, no food should go down your throat. That's the easiest way. We should be waking up early enough that we eat to where we feel good enough and we feel energized, not just to where we're wasted. And we have a little bit of time, even if it's a minute or 2 minutes or something like that, that when the time comes in, we have no food in our mouth. So we don't want to get up and just keep eating until, and because we woke up late and we're eating to an extent that we're going into that time, and now Fajr's in, now we're confused whether our fast is accepted or not. So leave the adhan, leave the clocks that we have that read the adhan. Those tell you at that minute. Sometimes they go off a little bit minute later, just because the app, the way it works. Just look at your time. Look at your clock, and inshallah we at MCC will have a MCC calendar for all the prayer times and the fasting times as well for the month of Ramadan. It will be on the website soon. Have that on the refrigerator and be like, okay, tomorrow morning when we wake up, we have to finish by such and such time. So plan it. Plan your alarms, plan your days, so that you wake up before that and you're able to eat good food, and then maybe even have time for prayer. Maybe if you wake up a little earlier, you can pray or read Quran if you want to delay your suhoor even more, or if you want to just eat your suhoor first, then read some Quran and pray some tahajjud. That's also, you can do that as well, but you just delay it, but not to the point where you're going into the Fajr prayer. You want to delay it only before Fajr comes in, and then that's when the time of fasting begins. As soon as Fajr enters, we cannot eat or drink after that. So inshallah, I mean, it's not a hard practice as much as it is something that's habitual. We have to make it a part of our natural day, and it'll be very easy to be able to act on it. But just in the beginning, right now is a very good time, because Fajr fasting is not in yet, but maybe we can wake up like 10-15 minutes before Fajr comes in and try to prepare ourselves to do that. And then while we're up and Fajr's not in, we can pray a little bit of Qiyam, and then by the time Fajr comes in, we can pray Fajr Salat, and afterwards continue with our day in a way that we normally do. So with that, inshallah, jazakumullah khairan for joining us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for all of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for all of our shortcomings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.